All right, everybody, here we are for episode 49, now showing with Mike and Wayne. We're here again, once again, in the garage. Wayne, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing all right. Gonna get everything started here over this lovely Memorial Day weekend. Nice long 3-day break from reality, if you will.
Yes, everybody, hopefully by the time you listen to this, you had a great Memorial Day weekend, remembering the troops and cooking on your barbecues and hanging out with your family or friends if you can, safely, obviously. However, we are going also, by the time this episode airs, it'll be Pride Month. Starts June 1st. So this week, we're going to talk about Pride-related films that we think you guys should see. There's a TV show, at least one in there. Just stuff that, if you want to kind of take in the moment, take in the month, stuff you could help you get into Pride Month. So we got just some ideas and some recommendations. We're going to get started here. It'll more just be a back and forth. We're not going to pick, we didn't pick 3 this week. So we'll start out with one I think that probably comes to most people's minds, Brokeback Mountain. Brokeback Mountain came out in 2005, directed by Ang Lee, starring the late Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal, along with Michelle Williams and Anne Hathaway. It won some Oscars, obviously, for Best Director. A lot of people, we talked about, and one of them were a recent episode, I think the Brendan Fraser episode, we talked about how Crash is often the one considered the one that stole the Oscar away from Brokeback Mountain.
Mm-hmm. It did win the Oscar for Best Achievement in Directing, Best Writing of Adapted Screenplay, and Best Achievement in Music, written for Motion Picture Original Score. So, and while that's awesome, not exactly what I was hoping it would have won. So.
Right, exactly. And Gyllenhaal was nominated for Best Supporting Actor as well. Or was that the British Awards? That might be the British Awards. That's the British Awards. A lot of people felt he should have been nominated at the Oscars, but he was overlooked. So plot: in Wyoming in 1963, cowboys Enos and Jack are hired by Joe Aguirre, played by Randy Quaid, to herd his sheep through the summer on grazing pastures on Brokeback Mountain. After a night of heavy drinking, Jack makes a pass at a hesitant Enos. Enos eventually positively responds to Jack's advances, and they have a romantic tryst in the mountains. Mm-hmm. That's kind of one of those, like, no one could ever know about type situations. This takes place in the 60s, so even though you may be hard-pressed to find people that agree with you on people being out and proud now, back then it was worse.
Oh, yeah.
Way worse than it is now, at least from what we have to go off of. A lot more people stayed in the closet back then. So it was something they didn't talk about. But what I liked about this movie too is you have the women who always kind of, both of them had the idea that like something had possibly happened on that mountain that neither one of them wanted to talk about.
And the fact that they take the persona of the cowboy, the rugged man's man, if you will.
Yep.
The Marlboro man lighting a match on his scruff, his 5 o'clock shadow, if you will.
Mm-hmm. And they kind of, you're right. They take that image and they just show that, like, anybody can fall in love, I guess. It's kind of like the moral of this story, like, love knows no bounds, I guess, right? Like, I mean, so it's a really great romantic drama. I actually just watched it somewhat recently. Rebecca had it on. I didn't watch it from start to finish. She kind of had it on. I was in and out of the room and stuff. But it's one of those movies that's always stuck with me. It's filmed really well. Ang Lee has such an eye as a director. He's fantastic. Obviously, I've talked about him before. This movie just hits a lot of notes. It's a great drama. It's a great romance. There's
heartbreaking tragedy.
Heartbreaking tragedy throughout. But definitely the ending is something I think people, if you've seen this movie, you'll remember for quite some time. It has a very heartbreaking ending and a very emotional, like, final note. And it really is one of those movies that, like, if you haven't seen it, where have you been living? It's such a fantastic film. And Wayne, anything else you want to say about it?
No, it's a fantastic film, and you can rewatch. It has great rewatch value, and obviously you get to revisit the great talent that was Heath Ledger, and just fondly reminisce about all the great roles that he's been in. Jake Gyllenhaal's fantastic. Everybody is great in this movie.
Yeah.
I don't think there's one. There's great. The characters that you're supposed to hate do a great job making you hate them.
Yes.
Anybody that was hesitant to see this movie because of the subject matter really needs to get over themselves and just watch it and experience some great pieces of cinema.
Yes, it really is starting, I think, to become a classic in that respect. All right. So the next one I want to talk about is something that we've talked about a couple times already, but I'm going to bring it up again. So we won't spend a lot of time on this one, Wayne, but we reviewed this movie last year. It's Happiest Season. Came out in 2020. Directed by Clea Duvall. Written by her and Mary Holland. Starring Kristen Stewart, Mackenzie Davis, Alison Brie, Aubrey Plaza, Dan Levy, Mary Holland, Victor Garber, and Mary Steenburgen. It's about the relationship between... let me get the cast names here. Abby and Harper, who are played by Kristen Stewart and Mackenzie Davis. Mackenzie Davis's character Harper has not told her family that she is a lesbian. So there's a lot of Kristen Stewart's character Abby's about to meet the family, like as the friend, basically the live-in roommate.
Yeah.
It's one of those things like it's meet the family for the holiday film, but also like. One of those comedies where just the like stuff keeps happening to the main character that she is kind of out of her. It's kind of Meet the Parents. I think that's a good example. So think like Meet the Parents, but with two lesbians instead, and it works really, really well.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun with it when we reviewed it when it came out. I watched it again after that as well, and I enjoyed it even more the second time. Great comedic performance from Dan Levy, son of Eugene Levy.
Yep.
He really is like the kind of comedy, and then also the heart of it at the end, I would say, too, a little bit. Kristen Stewart, I think, just keeps branching out and doing more different things, and this just added to her kind of list of movies that are nothing. After the Twilight series, she's kind of done nothing that's the same. It's all kind of different, branching out, doing different things.
She's really just kind of said, F you, Hollywood, I'm going to do what I want. And I think that is so outstanding.
Yeah.
Just because they really tried to... I was going to say they're going to cookie cut her into like the typical Hollywood bombshell, if you will.
Yeah, for sure. They both, her and Robert Pattinson, they try to put them in that box of the same box they tried to put Leo in after Titanic, which he very much rebelled against, and now we have what we have because of that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of that from those two, especially with Kristen Stewart, since we're talking about this movie. There's a lot of movies coming out, a lot of movies that she's done in the last couple of years that I think are really good. And even if the movies aren't great, her performances are always very, very interesting. In her more recent work. I get tired of people that always fall back on the Twilight jokes and stuff. I'm like, that was over a decade ago now. It's like, let's move on, people.
Yeah, we're talking 13 years ago the first one came out. Get over it.
Yeah, so...
And you know what? I just want to touch again really quick on Aubrey Plaza and her character in this and how, it was set up for her to be the conniving, mean-spirited ex, and it really doesn't turn out that way at all.
They get rid of a lot of the tropes, which I thought was nice. Again, comparing it to Meet the Parents, you can put, like, she's the Owen Wilson, but she's not a dick.
Yeah.
Where Owen Wilson is an asshole in that first movie. A lot of people have petitioned for Aubrey Plaza to get her own sequel, and where she gets her own love story, which I would be completely 100% behind, because she is fantastic in this movie. I know a lot of people wanted Kristen Stewart to end up with her. I just don't think that's the way they're going to end up going. If they do eventually do a sequel. There has been some talk with Clea Duvall about possibly doing a sequel to it, or just another movie in that same universe, But
as long as they can bring us the same level of entertainment, I'm all for it.
Exactly.
The one thing I don't want to happen is for them to do a sequel because of the hype of the first one and it just being
for sure.
Sure. You know, how many times have we seen that? So.
It happens often, and it's still happening. But anyway, so Happiest Season is on Hulu. If you haven't seen it, it was one of the ones that was theaters, and then it was sold to Hulu because of the pandemic.
Very high on our list of 2020. I think it was both in our top 5 or top 3 even.
Something like that. Yeah, it was on there. Let's see. The next one, okay, so this is kind of a twofer. So, Wayne, you wanted to talk Jesus Camp because, so people that aren't familiar with Jesus Camp is a documentary about evangelical Christians. Mm-hmm. And it's not directly, like the whole movie isn't about being anti-gay or LGBTQ+. But there is segments in the film where they do talk about that, and obviously most Christian organizations are going to be against that because it's in the Bible, which we're not going to get into a big political discussion on that and how we disagree with that.
Right.
But you wanted to touch on Jesus Camp and how they handle that content.
Yeah, and how is, as we're talking about Pride Month, and it would be remiss for us not to mention movies that kind of are against people loving who they want to love and celebrating what they are and what they were born as, or what they truly are and needed to alter themselves to become. Yeah. I believe that's fair enough to say.
Yeah.
I sometimes trip over my words, but this is a documentary piece by filmmakers Heidi Ewing and Rachel Grady, and it's 16 years old now, and it's still just as infuriating for me, as I do recognize myself as a Christian, but a very left-leaning, very liberal, very wanting everyone to love themselves and love each other. So to sit here and watch this dribble about how, they start the movie off, let me start this way, by talking about how politics plays into religion, and just with what we've seen in the last, 4 years, and how it's still relevant in a 15-year-old movie. It just sucks right off the bat, and how creationism is the only way. And I'm one of those people that believe that science and religion can go together. It can kind of, science helps explain how religion came about to do things, and all that stuff. And how the Big Bang is definitely a thing that happened, and all that good stuff. But I'm just along with this movie, Saved, I believe.
Saved, I love Saved.
It's another one that's
I didn't write that one down. I love Saved.
I just thought about it off the top of my head. It's another one of those that it's not really satire, but kind of.
It is, I would say. Okay. It's satire for sure. And that one definitely has some LGBTQ plus characters in it. It's about the main girl getting pregnant and her being part of a religious school. Yeah,
and then the holier than thou art character is really just the most evil, vile, vindictive person.
What I want to say about Jesus Camp too, just so people know, the people that made Jesus Camp are not pro anything that they're talking about in this movie. They made this movie to kind of pull back the curtain, if you will, of what these evangelical retreats are like. Because that's basically what it is. It's a big evangelical retreat, and they show the kids doing the praying on their knees and stuff with the what do you call chanting almost?
It focuses around Becky Fisher and her children's ministry, and she, again, I don't want to talk negatively about any particular person because I don't want to come off as a crack, but attack, not a crack. But sometimes she sounds like she's on crack explaining herself. But she is of the Pentecostal faith who believe in chanting and talking and speaking in tongues.
That's it. Tongues,
without any viable reason to explain it, and
just cause.
That's very much questionable in some faiths because, you need some validity to it. And if you don't have an expert to kind of decipher what's going on, it's kind of okay. And she's encouraging the children to chant. And it's their imagery of adult men with their hands on young men's shoulders, whispering in their ear, trying to get them to chant. It's very off-putting and, very much cult feeling, kind of like the certain growing cult that's going on in America today.
Yes. So I wanted to pair this movie because when Wayne mentioned this, and I'd seen Jesus Camp when it came out 15 years ago, whatever it was now. There's a movie called But I'm a Cheerleader from 1999. Okay. It's directed by Jamie Babbitt, and it stars Natasha Lyonne, Clea Duvall, director of Happiest Season, Melanie Linsky, RuPaul, Eddie Cibrian, Wesley Mann, Richard Mole, Douglas Bain, Kathy Moriarty, and Catherine Town. The reason I wanted to kind of put these movies together because what they kind of talk about in Jesus Camp, which is making sure the kids don't become gay, is basically what But I'm a Cheerleader is about. It's a girl who is confused about her sexuality. This one is Saved as a satire, and she doesn't know why she feels the way she feels. They send her to a camp to get rid of the gay. Yeah. It's the best way I can explain it.
Straight camp, yeah.
Yeah, straight camp. However, in this movie, it's run by RuPaul, who obviously is a drag queen, as we all know in real life, and an openly gay man. And he plays it as such, basically. It's very obvious that he is RuPaul, playing a character, but still, they wanted him to keep his same persona. And so there's a lot of satire of characters that are you just can tell that they are into the same sex as the other main characters in this film, but they're trying, because their parents have told them that it is wrong, they're like running from it. So it takes her going to this camp. The satire of it is they all go to this camp, and then they basically all end up realizing that they are gay or lesbian at this camp. So the camp really ends up kind of opening them up more sexually than the parents were planning on. I haven't seen it. I wanted to watch it before we did this podcast. I just didn't have time this week. It is on IMDb for free. You can watch that if you have Amazon Prime. You can watch it through there. Natasha Lyonne is great in this movie. So is Clea Duvall. Melanie Linsky, we talked about her last week. She's an actress we really like. It's just got such a great young cast at the time. It's 1999, so we're talking over 20 years ago now. There is a director's cut which comes out on Tuesday, so the first day of Pride Month, which I'm actually excited about to get. So look out for that if you're interested. It'll be on this thing called...
Not to insert too much false humor, but is Zack Snyder involved in this director's cut?
He is not. It is not. We will call it the, the Babbitt cut, okay? The Babbitt cut comes out.
Babbitt?
It's Babbitt.
Yes.
Not that cut. Jesus.
He'd be ashamed of me right
Jesus
now.
can't. Oh, sorry.
Speaking on that real quick, sometimes I want to listen. I just want to look at these guys that are spewing this hate, this vile venom. Like, Jesus would be ashamed of you, bro. And yes, I just use Jesus' name and curse. Sorry. That's the anger that's how this topic brings up.
A lot of people feel that way, and I know my wife is one of them because she does not believe in the whole God and Jesus hate gay people. So there's one of those things that some people take it again word for word, and from what I've heard, and I haven't read the Bible, as people know I'm not a religious person. It's not in the Bible, from what I've been told, necessarily.
It's how it could be perceived.
Right,
it's
exactly.
Like, you know what you can do with your perceptions?
And I get tired of people, if you have faith and you have religion, I respect that, and I have no problem with it. I don't like it when they use it to hide behind bigotry. Because that's all it is you're hating homosexuals because you're a bigot, but you're using the Bible for the reason of why you hate them.
Yep, absolutely.
And so that's always bothered me.
And that's they talk oftenly about the numbers in churches are going, people are believing in God, blah blah. It's like, well, gee, I wonder why.
Yeah.
Just love yourselves and love everybody else. I think that's in the Bible somewhere. So.
As long as you're not hurting anybody, I don't see the problem.
Actually, I know exactly where it is, but that's not this type of podcast. DM me and I'll definitely go over it with you if you want to have that conversation.
We'll start a new podcast called Bible Talk with Wayne.
Oh,
All right, but I'm a cheerleader. Like I said, it's on IMDb. Go check it out for sure. The next one I really wanted to talk about is, I think, about an icon, I would say, in the gay community, and that is Harvey Milk. Mm-hmm. In 2008, they made the film Milk, directed by Gus Van Sant. Van Sant. I don't know, however you say it. Gus Van Sant. That's how I've always said it.
Looks like Sant.
Yeah. Written by Dustin Lance Black. And starring Sean Penn, Emile Hirsch, Josh Brolin, Diego Luna, and James Franco. Music by Danny Elfman. I didn't even know that. So Elfman is a very famous composer. This movie, Sean Penn won the Best Actor for this role. It was his second win. There also is a documentary about this movie as well. Not about this movie. Sorry. There's a documentary about this story called The Times of Harvey Milk. Harvey Milk was a openly gay mayor in, was it San Francisco, I think, right?
Yes.
Who was assassinated. And it was obviously viewed as a hate crime when it happened. This movie kind of goes through Milk's life, how he led his life as an openly gay man, his lovers throughout his life, and then obviously comes to the unfortunate conclusion of his life, which was that he was assassinated. It's such a great movie. The performances in this one are fantastic. Sean Penn, as weird as he is and as bizarre as he can be sometimes, is probably the best living actor alive on this earth right now, in my opinion. And there are a lot of other actors I like a lot, that I like a lot too. But whenever we just watch Mystic River, he's amazing. And when you see Milk, it's the same. You get that same feeling, and it always puts a smile on my face to think This guy started as Spicoli.
Yeah, and I mean, when he took this role, there was some backlash because in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, he does use the derogatory word for a homosexual male. And
there's so many movies from the 80s and 90s that use those words, which everyone, for the most part, regrets now. So it's one of those things.
I'm sorry, not that. At that time, we're almost, let's see, this Milk was made, it came out in 2008. Fast Times came out in 1984. A lot of things have changed in that amount of time, and by no means am I justifying that.
No.
But in 24 years, I think, doing math in my head, I don't have access to my toes, so I don't know if my math is accurate at the time.
Yes, well, we talk about this all the time. You know, it's okay to grow and move on in the future. Like we get away from words that we used to say, and that's okay. It's also okay to go back and watch those movies and still enjoy them, despite the fact that they use some of those terms that we no longer use.
Yeah.
And as long as you're not out there repeating those terms, it's okay. The movies were made at a different time. Should they have done better? Sure, but we did it because everybody did use those words back then. And now that you look at it, like Bill and Ted, the first one is a good example. Came out in 1989. Yep. They used it in that one. The last time I watched it, I was like, ugh. But I still like the movie. But it was still one of those things that you're just like, oh man, I can't believe we were at a time. It's great that we're not at that time anymore. Absolutely. I mean, that's one thing to focus on is like we put that stuff in the past. Now, unfortunately, those movies are still there, and we can still watch them and can enjoy them. But we have to kind of it's like watching a movie of a director who maybe did something bad, and I'm not talking like pedophile, but you know something just bad that you don't like or said something you disagree with, and you can still enjoy that movie, but still recognize that guy's a bad person.
Right. And
it's the same with I think this. You could recognize, well, that was a different time, and they shouldn't have done that, but it's still we can still watch it and enjoy it for what it was. And he's an actor. He was paid to do that movie, Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Those weren't his words as well. Like, that's another thing to think about as well. And like you said, there was so much time between that and Milk that really is that something that we really be thinking about. But
perfect situation, anything from Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
Blazing Saddles.
And that was all satire. That was on purpose. They wanted you to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. Mel Brooks is just, he's a fantastic director, and so much stuff that he came up with, an actor, and comedic value. And, it's take it as a learning experience and a teaching moment.
Yes.
Like if you're going to watch something that has something questionable in it, make sure that you take 30 seconds out and be like, you know what, this was funny in that time, but now we don't use that because of this.
There is that thing, too, where you explain to your child, like, hey, you're going to hear some things in these movies, and we don't say that anymore, and we shouldn't have. I explained that to Donovan recently, like, hey, that there's a word, and I didn't say the word, but I'm like, we don't use that word anymore. So, like, if you ever hear that word, you don't say it.
Yeah.
So, we got a little off track there, but we're going to bring it back. Milk, again, it has a great cast of characters. Alison Pill, also in this movie, who we both are huge fans of.
Absolutely.
Victor Garber as well. Sorry, my phone's not going backwards. But
maybe it needs a DeLorean.
It needs a DeLorean, yes.
To go back in time.
Dennis O'Hare. This movie just really... Again, it was one of those ones that I think like hit a lot of nerves. Mm-hmm. Like it's one of those kind of rebel-rousing movies where everyone's like excited, and then everyone gets emotionally brought down by the end of the movie. It really, and it kind of just it puts another button too on that time. I mean, this was in the 70s that he was assassinated. Yeah. Not too far removed from when Malcolm X and Martin Luther and JFK and RFK were all murdered. So like. This was a product of that time where you had someone similar to them speaking up about injustice that was being done to a certain group of people, and there are certain people out there that didn't want to hear it. And it's crazy that those times were what they were. I mean, granted, like I said at the beginning, like we maybe haven't come as far as we would have hoped by now, but we've still come a lot further than that.
Yeah.
And there is a positive there, like that we can now watch the movie Milk and kind of feel like his life and his death meant something to the community, and we can at least use his memory, I think, to instill people to like be themselves and to fight for what you believe in. This movie was about protests, too. That was a big part of this film, which we obviously have a lot going on right now. So if you haven't seen Milk, I really recommend checking it out. You're going to see one of Sean Penn's best performances. I would say that this and Mystic River are probably my two favorite performances he gives. And well-deserved Academy Award for both of those performances. Check it out. I'm not sure where it's streaming right now, but you definitely check out Milk.
It's worth the $2.99 or $3.99 rental fee, guys.
Yes.
So.
We will mention Moonlight. We did talk about that one already. Moonlight is a story told in 3 parts of a young gay man who is trying to balance his life between like the street kind of where he's being raised and his own personal like romance life of where he is a black gay man in drug dealer essentially. So it's living in that type of life doesn't always bode well when people come out and tell you who they are. You know, coming out to your drug dealing friends may not be the ideal way to do that. It's a movie that it's directed by Barry Jenkins, if you don't know that already. It kind of just tackles like how hard it is to be yourself in society sometimes. And it's obviously harder for certain, I think it's hard for everybody sometimes, but it's harder for certain groups of people, especially the LGBTQ plus community, because there's so much, again, bigotry from people, you know, even politicians and stuff still. So like when you're dealing it with where there's people that at a higher level that don't like you for who you are, you know, it makes it, I think, more difficult to be who you are. And I think this movie, it really takes you on like kind of an emotional roller coaster because as we talked about before, Mahershala Ali's performance in this one, and he's only in it for like 30 minutes, but he gives such a heartbreaking performance as his father figure.
Yep.
And then that moment when he realizes he lost his father figure, like it's such a huge moment of the film, and having to deal with his mother who's a drug addict, and there's a lot of stuff that he had to. Let me just get his character name real quick. Chiron. Chiron had he had a lot to deal with that I think he really wasn't allowed to be himself until he got older, right? Like that was he kind of discovered who he was when he was younger. There's the one scene on the beach when he's a teenager, if people remember. But because he had to, you know, make a living for himself, try to keep his mom clean, worry about other people in his life, like he never really got to be himself. And it was important at the end when he eventually kind of gets to have that moment where, you know, he gets to admit who he is to a person that he really kind of loves and cherishes, which is a really kind of great moment in that film. So if you haven't, like I said, we talked about it before, if you haven't seen Moonlight, really check it out. It's definitely worth it. It was definitely, I think, worth winning the Best Picture. It's one of the few times recently that the Oscars got it 100% correct. Even though Warren Beatty apparently wanted La La Land to win. Just kidding, obviously. If you've seen the Oscars, you know he screwed it up. Let's see. Call Me By Your Name is another one that came out recently. And it stars Timothy Chalamet and Armie Hammer. It is about a young boy who's like 16 or 17 who falls in love with an older man played by Armie Hammer. And it's about it takes place in the 50s, I think. And it's about their like budding romance that happens like underneath like his parents who like it's one of those movies where like he's discovering who he is sexually, but he doesn't have like his parents are all okay with like there's no like turmoil like that like in some of these movies where the characters are hiding it from their family, like in Happiest Season where she's hiding it from her family. There isn't a lot of that turmoil in this movie because his parents are very open with him discovering his sexuality and who he is. It's a really great romance in the way of what I would say something like Brokeback Mountain. I thought I really kind of had like a lot of the same notes to it. Timothy Chalamet, I mean, he's just one of those actors that he hit the scene and giving like great performance after great performance at such a young age is pretty insane. So if you haven't seen this one, definitely check it out. I'm not sure where that one is playing either, or if it is streaming at the moment. Boys Don't Cry, that's an older one with Chloe Sevigny and Hilary Swank. That one is about a trans man who...
True story.
Yeah, based on a true story. And...
Brandon Tina.
Yes. Hold on, let me bring it up here. I saw this movie a long time ago, and then I've seen it somewhat recently. I saw it when it came out. It's directed by Kimberly Pierce. The film is a dramatization of the real-life story of Brandon Tina, played in the film by Hilary Swank. It would be her first Oscar win. An American trans man who attempts to find himself in love in Nebraska, but falls victim to a brutal hate crime perpetrated by two male acquaintances. It co-stars Chloe Sevigny as Tina's girlfriend, Lana Tisdale. It also has Peter Sarsgaard, Brendan Sexton III. Those are some names you may recognize if you follow actors. It basically tells a story of Brandon getting to know Chloe Sevigny's character and falling in romance, and then they find out that Brandon isn't fully a man yet. He's a trans man, but hasn't had any surgery, and that causes the rednecks in this town to basically commit a hate crime. It's a very emotional film. It's hard to watch at times. There are definitely some moments that are going to make you, kind of second guess whether you want to keep watching or not. It is well worth it. I think it's a movie that people need to see. It's kind of like, I'm trying to think of it, like, you have Happiest Season, which is like a happy moment that you need to see, like how it could be like if you're living an open gay life. Like, there's a lot of happy moments, and there's some turmoil and stuff. But there's a lot of happier moments in that movie. Where Boys Don't Cry, it kind of shows the darker side of America, and where, like we talked about, this bigotry that is out there, and where when it can rear its ugly head and what can happen. We just talked about Harvey Milk, and he was assassinated for being a gay man. And then you have Boys Don't Cry, where Brandon was assassinated or murdered, whatever you want to say, for being a trans man. And these movies can be hard to watch at times, but I think they need to be seen. And this is another one that I would definitely recommend people watching if you can make it through these type of movies. Look it up, see what kind of scenes are in there. It is a bit tough at times, but it's really, really, really well done. There is also a documentary called The Brandon Tina Story that came out the year before. So you can check that out if you want. But just get to know Brandon. I mean, he was a young man just trying to figure it out and died way too young. And it just, at least we have these movies, the documentary in this movie, to kind of remember him. And I think that's important. And it's definitely a movie. I don't know if it's got forgotten about, Wayne, but it's been out. It's been over 20 years now. So I think people just don't talk about it as much. The other ones that'll be what we'll talk about. The last thing we'll talk about fully. Recommendations: Carol, Hedwig and the Angry Inch, Orange is the New Black. If you haven't seen that show, the two main characters are, well, one, I guess you would say the main character is bi and the other one is a lesbian because they're in love with each other. So really, I never finished the series, but the first 4 seasons were pretty fantastic. So check that out if you want to watch that. I also recommend two movies. One that we just talked about last week, but the other one, Underwater with Kristen Stewart and The Mitchells versus the Machines. Now those movies aren't what I would call pride movies, but the main character, Kristen Stewart, plays in Underwater as a lesbian, and then the main character we talked about in The Mitchells versus Machines last week, the daughter is a lesbian as well. So I think those are two big budget movies that handle it very well, having those characters in their movie, because a lot of times when big Hollywood movies try to do it, they hide it in the background. Rise of Skywalker, there's 2 girls kissing in that movie in the very end celebration scene that if you blink, you miss it.
Yeah.
So it's that's not real representation. Underwater and Mitchells vs. Machines, I think, are a way to do it in a big budget movie that who these people are and what they represent. And I think that that's why they're important. Portrait of a Lady on Fire, I've talked about that one before. The Half of It, I've talked about that one before. Fantastic on Netflix. Love, Simon. Pride. Obviously, it's Pride, the movie about gay pride. There's a movie, Pride, that's about swimming. That's not the one I'm talking about with Terrence Howard. Also a good movie, though, but different movie. Let's see. The Kids Are All Right. My Own Private Idaho. Tangerine. The Birdcage. Mysterious Skin. Boy Erased. Philadelphia, which we've talked about already. Great movie. TV show Sex Education on Netflix. I meant to mention that last week, just because they're a Netflix show. That deals with homosexuality very well on that show. A Single Man with Colin Firth. And I put The Haunting of Hill House again, because one of the main characters is a lesbian in that, an out lesbian, and I think that is important.
And then I want to chime in again with, I'm a big fan of Dawson's Creek. Our late 90s phenomenon, the WB took the world by storm. One of the main characters introduced in season 2, Jack McPhee, comes out to be gay and is one of the first male-on-male kisses, I believe, on network television.
Okay.
A lot of backlash because of it. Again, I don't know where it falls on, if it was the first and whatnot, but I remember people starting to boycott the show and complaining about this, because two males showed affection for each other, and just they often handled Jack's struggle and what he went through as a gay man, in the late 90s, as a high school student, and then as a college student as well, and just the struggles and shortcomings and dealing with bigoted people in his life, bigoted parents. It was really, really well done, honest portrayal, in my opinion. Again, Jack wasn't one of the main characters, but definitely one of the main supporting characters, very important to the show.
I think it's good to have those, to recommend those shows that handle it very well. Like, I think Orange is the New Black handles it very well on that show. And so I didn't know that. I never really watched Dawson's Creek, so that's great that they had that storyline, and it makes me want to watch that and see, what else they did well. If James Vanderbeek really still holds up to this day.
Well, you always got the crying meme at the end of season 3.
Yes.
So.
All right, everybody, we're ready for our review
of the week.
This week, we actually have a movie that fits into Pride Month, which I didn't know going in, which was a pleasant surprise. Plan B. Directed by actress Natalie Morales. Written by Prathi Srinivasan and Joshua Levy. It stars Victoria Morales and Kuhu Verma. It is a story about Sunny and Lupe, who are two best friends. And they have basically 24 hours to get Sunny a Plan B pill, because she had a sexual encounter, and now she's worried that she might be pregnant. It's one of those movies similar to think Road Trip, or trying to think of it, Booksmart, which is another one that just came out recently about two women friends, and it really has a lot of far out moments. So basically, they have this giant party. Sunny has sex with somebody, and then the next day they go on this adventure to find the Plan B pill. They live in a town where they're denied by the pharmacist.
Oh my gosh, I had to stop at that point. Sorry, not to come interject. I was reaching for my phone to start talking to you about this. I'm like, you know what? Let's just get through this, because what was it? A conscientious objection.
Yes.
To violate somebody's human rights.
Yeah,
that's f***ing great.
Oh my god, it was one of those scenes.
I'm never watching Super Troopers again. Take that, Jay. I can never say your last name, man. So
yes,
I apologize.
Jay from Super Troopers was in that role.
Yes,
the director of all the Super Trooper movies, there are two of them, so that works, and all the other Broken Lizard movies.
Yes,
it's just a cameo from him. That was funny because they called it with the Indian Mafia, that anytime you see an Indian person, they're going to report back to you, which is funny because it comes up later.
Yes,
with the mother, and so she takes her mother's car, who's out of town, and they go on this adventure. Hijinks happen. They try to buy a Plan B pill from a drug dealer, which is hilarious. I'm not going to go into. There's
a lot of stuff in there that's pretty not for children's eyes.
It is not. It is rated
content
because it's Hulu. It's rated TVMA, which is for people that don't know TV mature, and it earns it.
Yes,
real good. There are definitely moments.
You laugh at it, but definitely not for anybody under 17.
It's hilarious, but it's definitely some moments that not everybody's going to be into.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I didn't know much about this movie going in, Wayne, because this was kind of a slow week. Like, you'll see coming up that we're going to have weeks where we review multiple new movies because there's just so many in the next 2 months.
Yeah.
This week just happened to be this movie, basically. And I was pleasantly surprised. And I enjoy movies like Road Trip and American Pie. And this kind of fits into that mold.
See, I agree with you, but I believe the performances by our two leads was better than any other road trip buddy movie.
I would agree with you 100%.
The natural chemistry that Victoria and Kuho have, well, I don't know if it's natural or not, but it comes across really, really easygoing.
It does.
They just seem to flow.
And if you read a lot of the other reviews, that's what a lot of people pull out of, is that the two stars really hold this movie together. Mm-hmm. They're really funny. They're really kind of perfect together. There is a moment where they're like on the fence against each other, like in most of these movies, but it only lasts like 5 minutes, where, most movies, like, that's part of the main plot. Like, this is like a very minor, like, hiccup in their relationship.
I think that's why it's believable, because when shit's going down,
yes,
tensions get high, and
you
freak out a little bit.
Who of us hasn't yelled at their best friend or whatever and be like, "That's it, I can't be friends with you"? And then 5 minutes later, it's like, "Dude, I'm sorry." And you're like, bro. And they kind of have that moment in this movie, which I thought was very cute. There's just a lot of great things to like about this film. Yeah. It takes the formula and it kind of puts some new spins on it, which I thought was cool. I called the twist, if you will. I figured that's what it was, and it worked. I mean, everything I think with the movie worked. It is one of those outrageous comedies. So there are those moments where, it's one of those things like in real life, would all these things happen at once? Probably not. Mm-hmm. But to make the movie entertaining, everything that happens has to happen on the same day. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about Sunny's relationship with her mother. Yes. And how it turns out at the end, without spoiling what happens or anything like that. I guess we're going to talk about it. So
yeah,
I really appreciate it.
Spoilers.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about the end of the movie right now in 3, 2, 1. I love the fact that she reacts like any mom would. It's like, going off, and all of a sudden, like, she realizes that there's an actual real problem.
Yes.
And
the best part, since we already spoiled it, the best part is when she tells her mom she goes through all the things that they had to go through, and she's like, because I went to the pharmacy, and the guy went and said with the Plan B pill because he didn't believe it. And she's like, wait, what? And that, got her to get up and take her to the store. But also, because of the Indian mafia, they say it's the friend that needs the pill. I like that part of it.
Yes.
She's like, very firmly, the mom goes, my daughter's friend needs the Plan B pill.
Yeah.
So it's that tongue-in-cheek humor at the end that you still get with the Indian mafia that they worked in earlier. But then you also get, she's pissed that this guy would not sell it to her daughter.
The fact that the daughter comes clean about everything that's happened, but because somebody wants to violate her human rights.
Yes.
No. Line in the sand.
That was one of those moments where I was like,
as it should be in this day and age.
I hope I'm a parent like that, because that's the kind of parent that I respect. Like, yes, obviously your kids are going to do stuff that you're going to be upset about. You're going to yell at them. That happens. But in those moments like that, when that moment came up and the mom was just furious that her daughter was treated in a way that she did not agree with. And, it really works. The movie, I think, just really works as a whole. It's kind of a great surprise. It was one of those, like I said, I didn't know much about it. I knew it was a new movie coming out. Mm-hmm. I really recommend you guys go and check it out on Hulu. Even if you listened the whole time without watching the movie and we spoiled it for you, it's still enjoyable. And you need to see it to... We didn't give away any of the gags in the movie. There's a lot of gags that happen, a lot of funny things that happen. Think of movies like Superbad, Booksmart, Road Trip. But like Wayne said, the performances are as good as the girls in Booksmart. Because that was one thing that helped that movie be as good as it was the performances and the friendship. And that's the same with this movie. The friendship by these two girls is fantastic. I look forward to seeing them in things in the future. Victoria Morales has been in other things. I believe this is the first thing for the the girl that plays Sunny. So I'm hoping that this leads to more roles, because I look forward to seeing her on the screen. And
her comedic timing is fantastic.
God, so good, So good. And and it's nice again to see a movie with two leads that are not white.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just gonna say it like that. It really is nice to see that, and that's another reason to just see this movie because it's different than what a lot of the other stuff. A lot of the other movies we talked about don't have that. This had that, and I thought that was very cool. And Natty Morales, if you look her up, she's an actress that I think people would probably recognize. She's been on some things on Netflix and stuff. She's the director of this one. All right, so Plan B, check it out. Our next review is for our Why This Film.
And that's what I was saying watching this. Like, why are we watching this film? Why this film?
It's a movie from 1984 starring Tom Selleck, as I like to call him, the Mustache. So the Mustache plays a cop who is in the robotics department of the police force in the future.
Yeah.
And you heard me correctly. The villain is played by first-time by Gene Simmons. This is his first role where he didn't play himself in a movie. And, yeah, he's weird in this, I will say. Okay, so...
Pseudo-believable, but at the same time,
yes.
Not really a great performance.
Well, it's believable, but the problem is they don't give him a real reason to be doing what he's doing, which is really weird. Okay, so this movie was written and directed by Michael Crichton. And yes, that Michael Crichton.
Yep, that guy.
My first thought when I saw as we were watching this movie, Wayne, it takes place in 1984, which is when Terminator was released. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, there was a thing with robots in the 80s and people had to, so I'm like, why did Tom Selleck, though, why did he choose this movie instead of Indiana Jones? And I guess there's a quote, I think it's on Wikipedia or somewhere I found it. Tom Selleck said that because of the reason he had to turn on Indiana Jones, we all know, is because Magnum P.I. So when this movie I'm watching, I'm like, well, why did he not do this one? This movie was shooting in his break. So he said that in order to do movies, he couldn't be very picky. He had to pick the ones that were available during his downtime from Magnum P.I. So
thank God for Mr. Baseball, then.
I love Mr. Baseball.
I do too. I do too. We saw some cameos of the great Frank Thomas.
Yes, we did. So that's why he liked. I think, and then he also said he liked Michael Crichton's books. So that was like the other reason why he did this movie.
You know what? I like Stephen King's books too. Do we want to talk about his directorial debut? Woo! Maximum Overdrive.
Oh man,
coming soon.
Emilio. He was like Emilio. All right.
Anyway, sorry.
So the plot in the near future, robots are commonplace, a part of everyday life, like any other electrical appliance. So basically, it's like almost kind of like how we have it now, where everything's got like an app and stuff for it, but these robots are like robots, but they're actually run on like RC cars. Donovan was watching it with me. He's like, that looks like, what is that, Dan? You call with the controller? I'm like, the remote controller. He's like, yeah. I'm like, that's exactly what it is, son. Good eye. Because they have like little spider robots that are like remote control. Mm-hmm. And it's very obvious they're remote control robots.
The earliest drone I think we ever saw at the beginning.
Yes.
The hoverbot, I guess.
The hoverbot, yes. So there's a murder. The robot like kills people. And so then Tom Selleck and his partner of the robot crime unit have to show up and investigate. And they show us, you see at the scene, you see Gene Simmons in the very first scene of the murder in the crowd. And you're like, very obviously he's the villain. Because of the look on his face.
Full-on villain face.
Yes, exactly. It's like he saw Wrath of Khan before he did this movie. And it was like, I just need to do that the entire time. Except he's not Ricardo Montalban. Who can get away with it. And was amazing in Wrath of Khan.
I stab at thee.
So that's the basic plot. They're chasing a guy who's using robots to murder people. He's then using the robots to cover up the murders. Think like iRobot, other robot movies like that where the robots are, bad for society. But in this case, it's the humans that are bad still.
I do love that Gene Simmons' name is Mr. Luther.
Mr. Luther, yes.
As a Superman fan, I'm like, it fits.
And I'm sure that's why they wrote it as that. It's not really like cheesy funny, really, like I was hoping it would be. It's just like cheesy bad most of the time. The one thing I kept noticing, and there is a plot, people. They never give Mr. Luther a reason to be doing what he's doing. He's just doing it. And then he has to cover up what he's done, so he continues to murder people, but yet they never give any sort of plot to why he's doing it in the first place. So it's like he wanted to create murder robots, but we don't know why he wanted to create murder robots. He just did. So it's just like it's a weird thing. Oh my god, we got to talk about the scene though with the murder in the beginning where the robot has the handgun.
Yes.
The robot somehow finds a handgun in the house and is like making the cops not come into the place because the robot has a gun, which I thought was hilarious. I don't know, like, and there was a baby, so they were concerned about the baby.
Yes.
And then the cameraman, not asked to go in, follows Tom Selleck into the house and then ends up getting shot in the face by the robot. It's such a weird, bizarre movie. Like, the problem is they wanted it to be a movie where it starts and robots are just a part of human society and you're not supposed to question it. But they never explained to you why it happened. So I think they're counting on everyone to have read 1984. And that's like basically what their plot was. Like, everyone read that book.
Could you imagine if this actually became Terminator, the franchise? Just like little Roomba gun-toting bots.
Yes. A Roomba travels through time.
A murdering Roomba bot. There.
I mean,
copyright it now.
It ties into the robot apocalypse movie from last week, Dimensions vs. Machines.
Yes.
Oh, way better robot apocalypse story. Like I said, this one isn't even this one is they tried to make it. Crichton wrote Westworld, so like I think this is a kind of another offshoot of that. Like, we know robots exist in the world, just like in Westworld, but this one, again, it just doesn't give you a reason why all of a sudden, like, this is what we have. We've never gotten to that in real life. Obviously, I don't have a robot that gives me beer or, is my servant or cooks food for me. So it's funny to me that just in the 80s and like 70s, like, this is where everyone thought robots were going when people started to invent like the technology.
We're all supposed to be living on the moon right now.
Exactly, and it's not happening. There were many movies to choose from this week. This one just, Tom Selleck. It's the mustache. And I also love, too, at the end, when he gets the acid thrown on his face, Wayne, they don't touch the mustache. They make sure the mustache is pristine.
The mustache actually absorbed it and gave it more power.
They gave it more power. The mustache actually is why he survives the end.
It is.
It's
got healing powers, force powers, Superman powers.
And then there's this scene. What's that? There's this scene where the woman shows up to foil the partner. Tom Selleck's partner shows up to foil the plan from Mr. Luther did, which was to kill Tom Selleck's son. Because he doesn't want any witnesses. And, like, she shows up and he's like, no, I won't let you get away with this. Like, get away with what? Stopping you? Like, that's all there was. Like, there was no, like, it felt like he was saying that he was, like, begrudged, like they did something to offend him. And I was like, but they're just saving the son. Like, I didn't get it. Again, this goes to not giving Luther any reason to be doing what he was doing. Except that he's obviously an evil genius. Like, that's the only thing that we know about him.
He can do bad all by himself.
And Kirstie Alley's in it, too. She doesn't make it.
Oh, darn.
Yeah, I know. That was all weird, too, because they made her, like, the sex pot. Like, Tom Selleck sees her and he's like, oh, she's beautiful. And then the partner gets jealous, and it's just, like, this whole weird, like, kind of like a love triangle thing that never actually materializes.
To tie in Mr. Baseball, I'm sorry, I have to. I was waiting for someone to say you have a hole in your shot.
Mr. Baseball, obviously a classic baseball film from the 90s if you haven't seen it. Runaway, I definitely say you could skip it. It's not some hidden gem out there.
No.
It's just something I had never heard of before. It's, if anything, watch it to watch Gene Simmons. Because that's about really all I think the enjoyment you get is like watching him try to play a character.
Or if you really like Tom Selleck's mustache.
Yeah, or if you're a fan of the mustache. Which who isn't at this point?
I mean, and his mustache game has always been 100%. So.
Oh, it's always on. It's on point for sure. All right, everybody. We're going to get into the segment of what we've watched this week. Wayne, I haven't, but have you gotten a chance to watch all of Lucifer yet?
We are 5 episodes in, and it is fantastic. We weren't really huge fans of the season 5 part A.
Okay.
But part B really has brought it. I will say that there is a musical episode now, so prepare yourself. It is funny, but it exists. So, as for me, I loved it. It was a toe tapper for me. Oh, it was more than that. I got up and busted into song. It was great. But yeah, no, so far, very, very good. Dennis Haysbart as the Almighty is great. And
what can't he do? Because he is amazing.
He can't hit a curveball.
He eventually does, though.
That's because Bat's afraid.
No help from Joe Boo.
Yeah.
All right.
Obviously, Dennis Haysbart plays Serrano and made the Major League movies.
Yes.
That's why we're quoting it. Let's see. What else is there? I started watching Stranger Things again. Oh, it's so good. I think we were talking about it last week, and I'm just like, you know what? I got it. I got to.
Yeah, I've been meaning. I want to start it. I just haven't had the time. But yeah, it's such a great show. I did watch Concrete Cowboy, which is a Netflix original starring Idris Elba and Stranger Things alum Caleb McLaughlin.
I watched that a couple of weeks ago. Really good.
Yeah, it was good. It's a good coming-of-age story. So if you haven't seen that, I definitely recommend checking it out. It's about it's based on a true story, based on a novel that was based on a true story about cowboys in urban Philadelphia who just are people that ride on horses through a regular town and a regular city, and they kind of just stand out. And there are a couple of the actors in the movie are actually those like urban cowboys, which was kind of cool to see, or suburban cowboys, whatever you want to call them.
Oh, we're talking about urban cowboys. The John Travolta classic. That'll be a story for another time.
I watched the German film. It's called The Strange House on Netflix, but on IMDb it's called The Scary House. I'm not sure which it's supposed to be. But it's a very good like ghost story. It has a very good like synth soundtrack similar to like Stranger Things, which I thought was kind of cool. That's something that I think a lot of directors are definitely going towards because they know that it gets people thinking the nostalgia. I definitely recommend checking that. The finale of the Mighty Ducks Game Changers TV show, I watched that this week. It's a really good show. If you were into the Mighty Ducks movies like I was growing up, I do recommend the Disney Plus TV series. It is cheesy at times. Some of the acting from the kids is not great, but you do get to see Emilio. He's on every episode. Lauren Graham is really good. And then there is an episode where a bunch of the older actors return for like a Mighty Ducks like Hall of Fame ceremony type thing. So that was fun to see them. Still no Charlie, but you know.
We talked about that, right? Because the COVID, he was restricted. He couldn't get out of Canada or get into Canada.
Something along those lines.
Because of restrictions, but he definitely is going to be. Don't worry, we will see Pacey on ice soon. In season 2, I believe they're trying for.
Nice. I'm looking forward to that because they got a bunch of the actors to return, and it was nice to see them and kind of to see a lot of them look very similar still. Some of them look a little different, but a lot of them look very similar.
The one person I really want to see is Goldberg.
Yes,
as you know, the actor had some major struggles
recently.
But he has been sober for over a year now, so that's exciting to hear. And so let's celebrate his success and get him back in the pads.
Yeah, for sure. It'd be fun to see the others come back. They do talk about Charlie in one of the episodes where they say that like the reason he's not around because he's upset with Coach. But I assume they'll put that to bed in the next season when they're able to get him on. I know they just had a baby. I think that's probably another reason maybe why he wasn't able to COVID, all that stuff. So, yeah, that was a good show. You know what? Take it for what it is. It's a kid's show, but it was fun. I enjoyed it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I watched. I'm watching Mythic Quest still. That's on right now. Really good show. Definitely recommend that one. That's about it. That's really all I got, Wayne. Anything else you wanted to mention before we get to the news and notes?
Oh, no, I think I mentioned everything I wanted to talk about. So.
All right. So news and notes for this week. Timothy Chalamet to play Willy Wonka in an origin film from Paddington director. So that'll be interesting. Bringing that character back. Again, Chalamet can't really do no wrong, but it's a character a lot of people are going to have some feelings about because everyone, no one wants anyone to touch Gene Wilder. So it is a prequel. So obviously, even if Gene Wilder were still alive, he couldn't be in it. So we'll see how it goes. I don't know. Could be great. Could be awful. Hellraiser reboot has been sold to Hulu. David Bruckner is directing. Lindsay Lohan is going to star in her first Netflix, I think it's a TV show, I'm not sure, but it's a rom-com regardless.
I'm excited for this. I think that she got a lot of flack for stuff that happened in her life.
Yeah.
And it'd be great. I can't wait for her redemption story. Is that fair to say?
Comeback story, redemption story. I think, and it's similar to like Justin Bieber, like they grew up in the public eye, which can't be easy. And they made a lot of mistakes, and those mistakes were, again, very public. So it's something they've had to overcome. We'll see how this goes. I'm glad someone's giving her a chance because I'll swear that she actually is a really good actress, I think. And it'd be nice to see if she can kind of stay around this time.
She was in, I want to say it was called Georgia Rule with...
yeah, that sounds right. With McClane, right?
I don't remember. It's a Hollywood legend.
Yeah. Yes.
If you will. We could look it up, but Georgia Rule was a really good movie that didn't get the credit it deserved, I think.
She gave a nice performance, yeah. All right. Sorry.
I was just going to go on a Lindsay tangent, but we'll save that for another time.
You can do that a different day. Go over our movies one day.
Yep.
Adam Weingart, who's the director of Godzilla vs. Kong. We already talked about how ever since that movie's come out, he's lined up Thundercats, the MonsterVerse sequel, a Face-Off sequel. He is now being tapped to direct Roger Kirkman's hardcore comic adaptation. So how Adam is going to have all this time to do like 4 movies over the next 3 years, I don't know. But apparently he's going to try. So I'm really excited because I was really a big fan of Godzilla vs. Kong. I want to see what he can do.
Sir, when they say it rains, it pours, just go with it.
Right, exactly.
You never know when that well's going to run dry.
Very true. Amazon has bought MGM for $8 billion. Wayne, I'm wearing Killer Clowns from Outer Space t-shirt.
Yes.
Okay? They are owned by MGM. Amazon, please do something with Killer Clowns from Outer Space, who just had their 33rd anniversary. James Bond and Lord of the Rings, whatever.
I love the fact that Bezos has $8 billion to buy MGM, but needs $10 billion from the government to do a space program. Go fuck. Sorry.
Agreed. Jeff Bezos can go yourself.
Yes.
However, I still want them to do Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
You know what? He'll get a one-time pass if they make a good version. How about that?
Garbage Pail Kids animated TV show coming to HBO Max, courtesy of Danny McBride and David Gordon Green.
Oh my goodness!
Yes, very excited about this. Those guys are behind many, many great funny things. They're also behind the new Halloween series, the movies and stuff.
How wonderfully disgusting is that going to be?
Oh, it's going to be really gross, and it's going to be fun. Evil Dead Rise is now going straight to HBO Max. Very cool. Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell producing. Will just be the next chapter in Evil Dead. Bruce Campbell will not be returning as Ash, though. There is a video game coming out which he will be returning for Ash. But he will not be Ash in Evil Dead Rise. But it will come straight to HBO Max, which is kind of cool.
I refuse to believe that. I think that's kind of just misdirection, and we will.
Could be.
That's what I'm telling myself, at least.
Aaron Taylor Johnson to star as Kraven the Hunter in the Kraven the Hunter movie for Marvel, for Sony and Marvel. Directed by Jay-Z Shandor. Slated for release January 13th, 2023. Faster Pussycat Kill Kill being turned into a TV series by Norman Reedus and AMC. Elizabeth Banks to star and direct in Red Queen fantasy series for Peacock. Val Kilmer documentary on the way from A24 and Amazon. Todd Phillips returns to write Joker 2. Why? But he does anyway. Christopher McDonald, a.k.a. Shooter McGavin, joins Marvel's Secret Invasion. So Shooter McGavin is definitely in the MCU, guys. Get excited.
As it should be.
Wayne, great news this week as we saw the first teaser for Cobra Kai Season 4. Terry Silver is back.
Yes, he is.
It's basically just Thomas Ian Griffith with his ponytail and then slightly turning his head to the right. It may not even be him, but it doesn't matter.
At this point, it has to be.
Well, it's the character. I'm just saying the trailer may not have actually been him because it's a guy with a ponytail.
Yeah. Well, we saw some misdirection in the latest season. We thought Allie was going to be back sooner.
Yes, true.
Well, for those of you that don't know, I apologize. Sorry.
Yes. Rupert Evans joins the cast of Bridgerton Season 2. Merle Dandridge joins HBO's The Last of Us series in the same role that she played in the video game, which was Marlene, the head of the Fireflies. A lot of people always wonder why these actors aren't cast in these roles. So this is one of the first times I can think of that a video game actor has actually been cast in the role they played in the video game. So very cool. Very cool.
The actor that portrayed Drake in Uncharted, Nolan North, fantastic voice actor. Could have really brought the character to life. Really would have loved to have seen him involved in some way, but I think he's too old to play the role right now.
Probably, yes.
I saw some screenshots from the Uncharted movie with...
everyone's upset that Mark Wahlberg doesn't look older or have a mustache, and I kind of agree.
Yeah.
I like Mark Wahlberg movies. I don't know why he was chosen for this movie. He doesn't really fit the part at all.
If it works, though, it'll work.
Yes, it can still work, but it just doesn't fit the look. Obviously, if I had it my way, Bruce Campbell would be cast as Sully, because that would have been amazing.
Yeah.
But I don't have, again, I'm
waiting to hear something, and I don't know if you're going to mention this. I want to break it up right now, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
We got another teaser drop for the Dexter revival.
I did not write that down, but I did watch it, yes.
And, of course, his name, quote-unquote, Jim something, I believe.
Yes, like Jim Lindsay or something like that, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is, Jim Lindsay, I believe. Yeah. Oh, I am getting so excited. And especially now that they reveal it's going to be a much darker version than the original. And a movie about a serial killer vigilante. How is it going to be darker than that? But all right, I'm in. Let's go.
I'm on board. People are probably upset the original cast isn't returning, but in this story they can't because it's 10 years later and he's still like living in that same fish town that he ended in. So you really can't have the...
People are concerned they haven't been talking about his son Harrison or the serial killer that he left his son with.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they're going. I would almost wager that that's going to be addressed in some way, shape, or form.
I would hope so. All right, Anna Kendrick to star in Rodney and Cheryl for Netflix, which is a biopic about the dating game serial killer. The dating game serial killer was a serial killer in the 70s who went on the dating game show after already being, I believe, convicted of murder, and then like went on another murder spree. Like the woman who picked him was like, yeah, you know what? I'm not going on a date with that guy. He seems really strange. So that was Cheryl. So it'll be interesting to see if that. I'm not sure if it's a show or a movie, but.
Oh, I've actually seen the actual clip of the dating game.
Yeah, it's out there, yep.
It's creepy, bro.
Denai Guerrera from Walking Dead and Black Panther, reprising the Okoye role, obviously, in the sequel, but will also be one of the main characters in the Wakanda-themed Disney Plus TV show that Ryan Coogler is producing. So that'll be fun. Jeff Nichols, director of many movies that I'm just drawing a blank at the moment, will be taking over a third Quiet Place film from John Krasinski, and it's actually expected next year. Now, I don't think this means it's going to be Quiet Place 3. I have a feeling it's going to be a movie that takes place during, like, the Quiet Place movie. So it'll probably be its own thing. I'm thinking. I could be wrong. Miles Teller replaces Armie Hammer in the show about making The Godfather at Paramount+. Sony and MCU movies are going to be in a shared universe, according to a Sony executive. So there's already lots of talk for Spider-Man, No Way Home, where I just read a rumor the other day that Willem Dafoe is going to be the main villain in the new Spider-Man movie as the Green Goblin, as they do the whole multiverse type of thing. So there have not been confirming reports. There have been reports that Tobey and Andrew are coming back to play Spider-Man, but those have been denied. However, we know that Doc Ock, played by Alfred Molina, is returning. Jamie Foxx is returning. Willem Dafoe is returning, as well as Vulture and some of the other characters from the newer Spider-Man movies. So you're going to have this whole big universe, and then apparently they're supposed to share with Venom, Morbius, Kraven, all those stuff that's coming out too. So it's very interesting what's happening here with Marvel and Sony. I don't know how it's going to work, but it's at least something that they're going to try, it sounds like. So that is something I'm looking forward to. The one thing I want to talk about, Wayne, before I get into the new movies coming out soon, movie theaters are back. Mm-hmm. They are open. Quiet Place 2 in Corella in theaters this past Friday. It's now Saturday. Quiet Place is expected to do about $60 million opening weekend. That's huge.
Yeah.
And that's big. Still be safe, wear your mask and stuff, but it seems like we're getting to the point where the movies are not, people are going to be in the theaters. So the fact that Quiet Place 2 is going to do as well as it's going to do is great. I will say this, if you're still hesitant to go to the theaters, Cruella hits Disney Plus for free in August, then like middle of August.
Mm-hmm.
And then Quiet Place 2, 45 days from yesterday, which is May 28th, will be on Paramount Plus. So if you want to wait, you can. But if you want to go see these movies in theaters, now's your chance.
And it's a great option too, Like really give it to the theaters first and let them let us have our big screen experience, but then let's not leave everybody in limbo for months.
Exactly. I think we were getting to the point anyway where there were going to be shorter turnarounds. So I think while Warner Brothers, I think has been great for us because it gives us more movies to review as having a podcast where the theaters are, for the most part, have been closed. They were onto something, but I think Paramount might be onto something more. This idea, because they're doing the same thing with the new Mission Impossible movie. 45 days in theaters, then it goes straight to Paramount Plus. Most of the money you're going to make in the movie theaters is going to be in that first month. So I think that's a great strategy because then, especially what they're trying to do, obviously they want people to go and pay for Paramount Plus, which I have and is a great service. Everything that's on CBS is on there, Comedy Central, plus their movies and stuff, which is great. So it's a great plan. I think it's going to work, especially, obviously, you've seen Quiet Place 2 is doing really well. So it's encouraging. All right, movies and TV coming out soon. Evil officially moves to Paramount Plus for Season 2 with a start date of June 20th. Boss Baby 2 is in theaters and on Peacock July 2nd. Fourth season of the anthology series Slasher will air on Shudder in August. It went from Season 1 on Chiller, followed by 2 seasons on Netflix, and now 1 on Shudder. Mark Wahlberg's Infinite hits Paramount Plus June 10th. It's a brand new movie from him and Antoine Fuqua. I'm looking forward to that. A lot of deaths this week, so it's been kind of a down week. Desiree Gould, the aunt from Sleepaway Camp, has passed away at 76. Marcus A. York, an actor from The Office, is dead at 55. Rob Hall, special effects and makeup artist, also director of Laid to Rest 1 and 2, and Lightning Bug, dead at 47. Samuel Wright, voice of the Little Mermaid Sebastian, dead at 74. Annie actress Lois DeBanzi, dead at 90. Eric I'm not sure how you say it, Carl, I think. Author and illustrator of A Very Hungry Caterpillar, dead at 91. Gavin McLeod, star of The Love Boat, dead at 90. And very sad news, Kevin Clark from School of Rock, who played the drummer, the little kid drummer, was hit by a car while he was on his bike and died, unfortunately, at the young age of 32. It's a big loss if you're a School of Rock fan. It really sucks to think that he died at such a young age.
Yeah.
So that's very sad. Rest in peace to all those that passed away this week. That's our show for the week, everybody. So I hope you enjoyed listening. So yeah, it's been great doing this for 49 straight weeks. So for Wayne Yerke, I am Mike Kirkpatrick. Thank you for listening to Now Showing with Mike and Wayne.